Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hello, friends. Thanks for being here once again. Let me first of all say I did notice, as you may have in the last video, that lip syncing video and audio were just a little bit not quite working together. So I was trying a 4K setting on this camera, and it was a little too much. It was, the crop and the idea was good, but it just, in practice with this particular, although this is a very powerful laptop, it's still a laptop. It's still somewhat limited, and one of these days I'm going to be able to have enough funds to put together a really strong video editing machine. It's amazing how much we need that just for a talking head video, for crying out loud. You think it wouldn't be this difficult, but excuse me. So today, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, I've switched back to 1080p, 30 frames per second. Oops, and I see a problem already. I wonder if I can change that on the fly. This is doing 23.9824. Well, another experiment. Let's see how that goes. Anyway, that's OBS I'm talking about. Anyway, hopefully, and I've adjusted this lens to 35 millimeters so it crops in a little bit. Let me know what you think of that. And now, beyond the technical aspects of just communicating with you, another order of business. I've added a couple of books to the ebooks page on threefoldlotus.com. I'm trying to find the most important books, or the most relevant, the most asked subjects covered on the ebooks page. And so I've added the Big Book of Buddhism, which is kind of your operating manual for your practice. And I've added I don't have it here, the Independent Nichiren Doctrine of Lotus Sutra Buddhism, which is basically the foundational concepts that this school, this Threefold Lotus Koan, Quantum Life Buddhism represents. So in it you have, of course, Nichiren, but also foundational thoughts that you hear me talk about all the time, from Wu Ji to you and me, from Qigong, and from all these different aspects of ancient teachings about body, mind, enlightenment, and how they come together with Nichiren's doctrine of Shakyamuni's Lotus Sutra. So it's as broad as it is specific to our practice. But it reaches out, right? Because Shakyamuni, as Nichiren repeats, study all of Buddhist scholarship as well as non-Buddhist scholarship. That doesn't mean study pasta cooking as outside of it. It's about philosophical study and scholarship, right? So that book, I think, more than any other in my bookstore, does that, encompassing teaching ideas in one volume. And until today, it was only available in print. It used to be called Beyond Zen. You may have that book. It's been revised several times, and now the title has been revised because it's not just about Beyond Zen. It's a lot more than that. So I changed the title to reflect what we're doing, independent Nichiren practice, yeah? So it is available now on the threefoldlotus.com ebook page. So please avail yourself to that. Much more easily accessed. I have all the basics on there now. I have the mandala, which you can download. I have the liturgy, Gongyo, you can download. Then these other key books on, the Gosho, 6 books of Gosho, which I still, as I review them, see where I can hone them and make them better. So I may do that, and this is an odd point, but it may be that the ebooks will end up being more up to date than the print store, because it's so much easier to just update a new book file for the ebooks, whereas the print books, you have to go through this whole approval process and da-da-da-da-da-da. And so I may just keep honing those books and putting up the most current version on the ebook page until I figure out that there's enough of a change, enough quantities of revisions that it's time to go back to the print bookstore and update those with a new revision and all blah, blah, blah. So we'll see. But anyway, I'm excited about the ebooks availability. Let me know what you think about that. Now, I started going over one of the ebooks I put up there was about the 3,000 Realms, which I've never seen anything in print on that other than maybe some scholarship about Tendai talking about that or, the Gosho. But, I like to make volumes and books and things and videos to take that stuff apart and relate it to our modern parlance, the way we think about things, right? Not this ancient kind of storytelling, knock, 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 do you get it kind of language. Who knows? Maybe I'm my own version of that. So be that as it may, I try to make it more accessible, is the word I was hunting for. I'm going to read another part of my foreword, which is rather lengthy in the front of the book, as I establish the concepts for what is this 3,000 realms in a single thought moment. Yeah. The important point, and I'm going to read my own words, for the purposes of this volume, the book, is the tracing of the process of energy under the influences of actions, karma that then is both influenced by different instantiations of karma and influencing, because the karma that is manifest influences, sets conditions for tendencies to then evolve with, right? There's this kind of constant bubbly exchange of energies manifesting. Sorry, my nose is tickling me today. Apologies. In the progression of formations, because this is the formations itself, yeah? Of energies established in previous karma or causation, these formations create momentum, right? Because things are moving. So there's movement. And if there's movement, then there's momentum, there's kinetics, there's things pushing around. Well, what are they pushing around in? They're creating. This is where space is created. When space is necessary for something to be, then time is an emergent property of space. Think of it that way. Because if there's this, then there's space from here to here, then there is time between here and here. Time is an odd way of measuring space. Do you see? And that famous equation I quoted earlier, this is the causation time. That the cause for this to exist is separate from the cause from this to exist, and therefore there is a lag, a time. What is that time-space? Time-space. Space-time. What is the minimal time-space required or observable, more accurate, for something to be? See speed of causation. What for decades you've always heard of as the speed of light really has nothing to do with light. It just so happens that in the mathematics, the time it takes for light to go from point A to point B is approximately, if not exactly, what is in the mathematics described as the speed of causality. That's why it's a c. You ever wonder why the speed of light is the little letter c instead of L? Or the S of L? C, causality. How long does it take for something that same C? This is what Buddhism talks about as a moment. And so life being a moment to moment to moment to moment, constant manifestation, momentum, right? You could say C to C to C to C to C. See how all this comes together? Now, what's interesting in this paragraph I chose, because I'm going to demystify another term. If you understand, you get the construct here. These formations create momentum, the kinetic energy, the movement that begets time-space, space-time. We say it's a duality, but it's really the same thing. It's just that we perceive it in two different ways, but it is what it is. So much of what we speak in the sciences and philosophy to one another is a fumbling linguistic attempt to identify something specific. It doesn't care what we call it, right? It just is. Moment to moment to moment. This entire construct of the realm of the universe and each and every manifestation of mind, because it's perception, is sometimes called Ichinen Sanzen. Ah, you've heard that term before. This is what Nichiren is referring to. And you thought they were separate things. But when Nichiren talks about, and now, ready for mind-blowing? When he talks about Ichinen Sanzen, you probably already put it together that is the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment. It's a little squishy because Ichinen Sanzen implies the momentum, the accrual of time-space, causality, karma, sometimes called karma with a big K, capital K. But all he's identifying in that is the 3,000, sanzen, 1,000 realms in a single thought moment being experienced right now, influenced by everything that came before it, Ichinen Sanzen, the 3,000 realms. But why does Nichiren package it in this term, Ichinen Sanzen? Because he's leading you to that mental perception of Ichinen Sanzen, of the 3,000 realms happening constantly, moment to moment to moment. And he gives that another name. And that's where so many people miss it. Even teachers miss it. That 3,000 realms in a single thought moment that he got from Shakyamuni in the lifespan chapter, described by Tendai, Miaolo, Dengyo, so on and so forth. He sees it as the momentum that it is, Ichinen Sanzen. All of that's well and good to describe the process of life, the engine of life. But what is it to recognize it, to be in it, to see it happening? Gohanzon. That's our goal, our highest, our most important, our all-encompassing goal, our highest ideal goal is this realization, honzon. The most precious realization, honzon, go honzon, is this perceptive reality of the karma big K, of the Ichin and Sanzen, of the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment. All the same thing. Slightly verbal linguistics different kind of looks at it, but it's what it is. And what is it to finally accomplish that amazing, precious understanding and witness it moment to moment to moment, to be in it? Buddha. See, we have all these words, but we never really take them apart to understand what is it we're saying? What is it that we're really doing? Right? So I think the 3,000 realms, incredibly important concept to drill into, to understand what it is we're manifesting. Whether we know it or not, whether we realize it or not, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, oh yes, now I see it, right? You can put, I was going to say you could cover up all the windows in your house. And then I immediately saw, aluminum foil. Yeah, whatever. You could block out all the windows in your house. It doesn't prevent the weather from happening. Right, it sounds silly, but if you're chanting the Daimoku, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, it's like Namu, I'm going to the window, Myoho Renge Kyo, I'm ripping down the covers. Now I see. It's a simple analogy, but it's exactly what we're doing when we chant. And the window that we are looking through isn't the weather. It just enables us to see it directly. What does that sound like? The mandala. The weather and everything that's going on, that's Gohonzon. The mandala is the window. You standing in front of it, getting the crap out of the window so you can see Gohonzon. That's your daimoku. And your experience of tearing down the obfuscation, looking through the window to Gohonzon, Buddhaness. Ta-da! It's so simple. But I love the idea that if you're not chanting Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, if you're not looking at the window, then it's kind of like you're walking through life, and I'm saying a non-Buddhist, doesn't know anything about windows, doesn't know anything about what's going on outside, just hears thunder occasionally, or wind, or dogs barking, never really knows what that is, and just kind of lives life mystically, wondering about the boogeyman under the bed, right? That's ignorance. It's not stupid, it's ignorant, it's not knowing. And so the mind wants to qualify and identify everything, so it makes shit up. That's why we suffer. That is the samsaric life. The house with no windows. You can go to the fridge, make yourself a hot dog or sandwich, get a drink, go watch TV. You can live quite a full life inside your house, wondering all the time, what's going on out there? That's how people live their lives, all the time. On Zoom calls, in other people's houses. Right? We're Buddhists. We have our houses. We like hot dogs. But we also like looking out our windows, keeping them clean, so that we can, hey, you know what? Maybe open a window. Actually experience that outside thing. We have doors. Oh, yeah. We can walk right out there. Myoho Renge Kyo. Now we're in Buddhaness. We're not just able to see it, go Hanzan, we're able to be in it. Buddhaness. These analogies starting to gel? So how does this all relate to 3,000 realms in a single thought moment? Well, I think that's what I've been talking about. So let me skip along from the sun and stars to the earth and planets, galaxies, all the universe is a collective engine of various and disparate realms, all with their own environments and tendencies and conditions, moving through time-space. And now we've begun to identify realms. So that's what I get into next. What are these realms? Well, realms are only useful to us samsaric beings, right? Because what is a realm other than an identification of karma? Certain types of karma, certain types of, okay, let's not use karma, experience. What is experience? It's energy in motion, right? It's momentum, kinetics. Yes, birdie. Thank you for chanting with me this morning. It's loud. Can you hear it? Anyway. So at this point, it should come as no surprise that we, you and I, are each a construct of immeasurable amalgams of energies and represent massive collections of realms, instantiations of potential, as well as a surrounding or constructed super realm we think of as a self. Oh, you thought I was going to say universe. Well, it's kind of the same thing. Energy equals mass times causality squared. It's amazing stuff. Once we understand the self, quote unquote, to be a massive collection of interacting influences, we begin to perceive the true nature of our constantly modifying and shifting self, rather than the illusion that we are a particular and unchanging self, right? That's primary delusion. I, ego, am. The closest thing that comes to that in Western philosophy is, I think, therefore I am. Trying to identify the very process of thought as a self, a being. It's not far off the mark, though, is it? Because what is thinking? That's what doesn't get asked. That's what Buddhism answers. Thinking is the construct of the observation to begin with. If you start with the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment, the idea of a solid self of being starts to dissolves, right, into just a focal point of the whole. Like my old analogy used to be about photons of light. And each individual person or thing is simply a tight agglomeration of those same photons. It's not far from the truth. It's actually what's happening. Photons being what? A quanta of energy. A massless particle. How can it be a particle and be massless? Because you have to understand, particle is a bad usage of language. It's not a particle, it's a quanta. In other words, it's a measurement of. a component of C. It's a pack of causality, photon. It's energy on the cusp of formation. And it releases, it's brilliant, right? A photon. The entire spectrum, a photon. Wow, Buddhism is just, it's right there. And we're constantly ever changing because everything is kinetics. Everything is in momentum, right? This can be as unsettling as it is empowering, as I say here, so don't be nervous. We know, because science, that we are constantly renewing our bodies, our bodily self, at a cellular level, right? From the marrow to stem cells and DNA, constantly replacing cells in the liver, in the heart, in the brain, in the skin, constantly. Anyone who's ever even dealt with oily skin or acne or rashes or had a cut or a scraped, what is healing? It's this constant evolution and replacement of stuff. So we know this on a visceral, very experiential level, physical level. We know our bodies, and why is it then difficult to imagine that everything in the universe is doing the same thing? It's evolving, it's modifying, it's changing constantly. Buddhism not only knows this, but wants to understand it holistically, universally. Adjust our mind to understand, to witness constantly that everything is doing that. Not healing, quote unquote, but evolving, constantly changing, flux. Because it's all energy. The idea of solidity lends an illusion to our greedy minds of possession to make things permanent. But we know the only reason that my hand doesn't go through my other hand, or that you can't just walk through walls, is that the energy it has force, it has a magnetic resonance, it has fields of energy that push against each other. You can put your fist through a wall, but it's going to require an exceptional amount of energy to displace the energy that wants to keep the drywall in its present form. But the fact that you can break drywall and go through it is a perfect example of how energies can be broken. They are in a fluid state, but our illusion is solidity, and we do that with everything, not just drywall, relationships, happiness. Do you see? It's all the same in Buddhism. There isn't one kind and another. They're just different variations on the same thing. We're far less intuitive about this aspect of our mind, because it's our mind that's putting all this together. I don't mean the brain, of course. I mean the mind, that disembodied, essential, perceptive tool to witness, observe, and create our reality, because that's what we're doing. Remember all those self-help books? 70s, 80s, some in the 90s even. Visualizations, all of that psychological kind of hocus pocus. It's all fondling this very truth that we do, in fact, create reality for ourselves through our own perceptive filters. It's not magical. It's just that our samsaric consciousnesses, our eyes, our ears, our taste, our feel, all of those are geared to quantify, qualify, identify. The database, the warehouse, yeah? And that's what we operate on, right? People who study epistemology, very familiar with this. How we construct our ideas about ideas. our ideas about what is knowledge is based on assumptions that are fundamental priori. Buddhism goes another step deeper and asks you how the priori, is formed. So if you want to go down the philosophical linguistic rabbit hole, there's a place for you to have some fun. Just know, though, without having to go there, that the foundations of Buddhism are extremely profound. But that's not the point. The only reason that profundity is there is to cut you loose, to break you free of the control and ownership and submitting your existence to thingness and thingifying. It causes suffering, pain, anxiety, stress. Cut it out. Yes, it's all there, but you're way too focused on it. Your monkey mind is screaming from every direction. Let's shut them up. Let's let them be. Feed them a bunch of, here, bananas, eat, shut up. Wow, open the window, walk outside. Buddhaness. This creative aspect of our life experience is where Shakyamuni is to focus the nexus of our investigation. This is where the interrogatory of Buddhism asks, yes, but what are you doing? Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. All right, that's enough for today. That was fun. We'll see how this video turns out. Hopefully this is better. I want to settle on something that we're all happy with, useful. And in that regard, you guys are amazing. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for being a Buddhist. Thank you for chanting Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. In that regard, please like and subscribe. It helps open up the YouTube audience so that we can get a larger Sangha, more support for this resource, not just these videos, but the podcast, the ebooks on threefoldlotus.com, the bookstore, the mandala store, yeah. In the meantime, can't do anything about any of it if you're not healthy. So please be mindful of your health. Be kind to yourself. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you once again. Patrons, as always, you guys are incredible. Bodhisattvas all. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.